Thank you. So Candace invited me to speak here to talk specifically about Electric Sky, an experimental art and tech weekend campathon that we organized this summer, as an example of around this theme, cross-pollination. So Electric Sky emerged as a part of a larger effort to foster this community of innovation at the intersection of art and technology. But I really want to introduce myself a little bit to give context to what I'm talking about today. I am a technologist, predominantly, and I've had a very interdisciplinary career myself. So I started as a research psychologist, and I moved into industry research and technology, and I've been in and out of the startups and large-scale industry organizations, including founding now Third Place Technologies. But I've also been an artist and very actively engaged in the art and technology world in Seattle since about 2000, when I started organizing DorkBot. I don't know if you guys are familiar with DorkBot. It was a monthly meeting, it's not active now, but a monthly meeting of people who are artists, technologists, and scientists to talk about their work and learn from each other. And so I've been really actively involved either as an artist, community organizer, creative director, for large-scale installations, in this space for a number of years. And I've learned a lot from my own experiences, but within my own mind, thinking about how being interdisciplinary has really influenced me to be more innovative. And this sort of pursuit of innovation is really the underlying theme to everything I do. And as John was so well saying, very articulate in saying, being interdisciplinary leads to creative genius. And there's actually a lot of research that shows this. If you can increase information sharing and knowledge and collaboration across different communities of practice, that in fact that leads to more innovation within those communities. And people like me, I'm what they characterize in the sort of social network research world as a boundary spanner, someone who helps information span across these boundaries, and then through that information flow, innovation in those communities increases. So when I think about innovation, I think, wow, Seattle's an awesome place to be as a creative technology person. It's one of the leading technology environments in the world. Yet oddly, as someone who's been active in the art and tech scene in Seattle for 15 or so years, I would say it's actually really underdeveloped compared to other cities, compared to, say, New York or San Francisco or Vancouver. Even, we're a pretty underdeveloped community of practitioners in art and technology. And so one of my goals, and the goals of some of my cohorts, is to increase or foster this community at this intersection. And so how do we go about doing that? The first thing to really ask yourself, well, what are the features of a thriving community, and does this have these features? Do a thriving community, the members know each other? They just need to know each other. They need to regularly interact. They need to be able to articulate, well, what are our common goals as a community? They need to have a feeling of belonging that actually inspires or motivates them to help the community grow. And they also need to have some sort of shared understanding about what does it mean to be effective or good or active in this community. For a community of innovation, there are a couple additional requirements. You have to have a culture of openness to new ideas. Not all communities are open to new ideas, unfortunately. And you have to have collaboration, as John was stating. Collaboration across disciplines, or interdisciplinary collaboration, is actually really important. And with that diversity, you need a diversity, but also inclusiveness. So again, a sort of openness or inclusiveness is a very important part of that feature of a thriving community. So last summer, as a part of this effort or initiative to increase this community of practice in the Northwest, we had a workshop. We brought together about 40 people for different stakeholders who are leaders in this area to really map out what is the space in the Northwest. Let's articulate what are our collective goals, then actually start taking steps towards achieving these collective goals. It was a great experience, and in fact, we wrote it up and presented the results of this workshop at the International Symposium of Electronic Arts. So if you want that paper, it's online, you can find it. But we actually started engaging in some of these community building practices. We started a mailing list. You should be on it if you want to be. We developed a online who's who directory so that you can find each other around common interests. But most importantly, I think, for actually really building community, starting engaging in sort of these community building events. And there have been a couple already, and one of them, again, was this summer, the Electric Sky. So Electric Sky One of the most important goals coming from that workshop was, well, we really do need to bridge community, like bridge these communities, build bridges across these communities. And the event was very much designed specifically around that goal. So let's build bridges across these communities of artists and technologists. But there's some challenges, and this is again something I've been learning really myself just through actively engaging with these communities over time. Is that they're coming from very different places. The artist, the pure artist, the fine artist, the career artists, and the technologists, the pure technologists, the career technologists. They're coming from very different places. The artist is in an environment of scarce resources. They're competing. It's actually a pretty competitive environment, you know, because how do you get paid as an artist? You're competing for grants and spaces and galleries and so forth. And with that comes a real concern for the legitimization of their work as artists and the purity of their brand as an artist. And so I've actually had artists literally tell me, I do not want people to think of me as a technologist. It's very important. I'm a fine artist, I'm not a technologist. And so there's that concern. On the other hand, you have the technologists who are in working companies, and there's actually a lot of money in the technology field, coming from a very different environment, remember. They're scarce in time, but they have a lot of resources. So they're coming from a very different place. There's concern about the intellectual property, potentially, of what they're doing, if there's too much overlap with what they're doing at work. And to the extent that technologists are also scientists, some real concern about the disciplinary rigor. So if you're a scientist, sometimes it does not reflect well on you in your career if you're working or collaborating with an artist. Now, across all of these, there's sort of the general cross-disciplinary issues around not being aware of or understanding each other's language or best practices, and also from that some sort of sense of distrust or fear around, do they actually respect me? Do they respect my discipline and my expertise, and that might inhibit your ability to collaborate? And so there are all these are sort of how I would characterize what is inhibiting people's ability to play and experiment with each other. And so if you want people to play and experiment, you really have to have this in mind. And so with Electric Sky, we really wanted to create this environment where you could be removed from your regular day-to-day life, where you can feel safe in an immersive environment, where you are exposed to people from other disciplines, and you are given the space, essentially, to play together. So it was an artist retreat for the technologists. We also called it a hackathon. The artists don't generally know what that is. And basically it was an outdoor creativity lab where we created a space with the tools and resources and Wi-Fi where you could just come and play with each other. We also had some workshops as a part of that. And again, it was immersive, it was collaborative, very communal. So we had people who are members of the community. Actually, for example, they had a shared meal. It was people who are members of the community who are organizing the workshops and so forth. And so it was actually literally in a ballpark. It's this beautiful ballpark that's nested between two national forests out on Highway 2 up in the mountains. So again, removed from here, and in this very inspiring environment. And it turned out to be one of those weekends. It was like the hottest weekends in Seattle, and half the time people were literally on the river with their feet in the water. It was really, really nice. So another important collective goal for this community is ongoing lifelong learning, especially in technology. In technology, you need that lifelong learning because technology changes so quickly. If you're not engaged in lifelong learning, you fall behind pretty quickly. And so we had some workshops like a 3D printing workshop, reactive lamps, so working with Arduinos and LEDs, GPS devices. And then for the kids, we had a LED wizards, sticks, and fairy wands workshop, which the girls just loved. Another issue in the tech industry in particular is diversity. Low diversity definitely tends towards being male and being white. And so what can we do to increase the diversity? Keeping the costs low, keeping it all ages, making it free for the locals, because we wanted some of the more rural people to be able to just walk in and join. And also really really theming the workshops so they're very female-friendly. On average, little girls don't care about droids. Boys love them. So we didn't make. So we did things like I said, the fairy wands and wizard sticks and 3D printing and so forth. Another collective goal that emerged from that workshop last summer was wanting to be able to have social impact as a community. So how does your art engage with the people, the politics, the environment? And so we really encouraged people when they thought about the collaborative projects at Electric Sky, well, how can you engage with the environment? How can you show or highlight issues in the environment as long as you're in the woods, by a river, in the national forest? And so there were a few projects that were like, highlighting, the lasers in foliage, and this guy made this bug hotel, which was really awesome at nighttime. You literally saw this like giant array of all these different bugs loitering around this hotel. There was a lamp, the reactive lamp project was responding to the wind and movement in the trees. These lamps would hang in the trees, and like the lights would be responsive to the movement. There was another project where he was imagining, what if you got lost in the woods? So he created these two huggable dolls that had an LED circle on the top that directed you towards the other person, and the little dolls made noises to tell you if you're walking away from your friend or not. So there's like some really fun projects that really did actually engage with the environment, which was exciting to see. Another issue is, technology art is expensive, relative to other kinds of art. There's a lot of material costs. And so even though there's a lot of money in technology art, it's not a lot of money. And so one of the things that we did for that is we really encouraged the haves, again, because it's a community-oriented event, we encouraged the haves to bring material supplies so then can be a part of the workshop to help the have-nots experiment or experience what it was like. For example, I had a friend with a 3D printer, and I said, hey, will you come and bring a 3D printer? And by the way, will you do a workshop with your 3D printer? And that was the most attended workshop. Everyone just loved it because they don't have that opportunity to actually experience or play with a machine like that that often. So anyways, the event, as I mentioned, was very much organized around the sort of goals that were articulated in the workshop the year before. And we're going to do it again next year. I had a few people say to me on the way out at this event, I'm not even sure how I would describe this, but I'm coming next year. I'm bringing my friends. It was totally awesome. It was very experimental to throw people together and just hope they end up collaborating, but it actually worked out really well. And I do think that being in an inspiring environment like that was and relaxed, the relaxed environment made that very important, was a very important part of that process. But I would say one of the biggest challenges was again balancing, like how do you the legitimization of the work that's being done versus creating a place where people can be very playful. And so, we're thinking really proactively about, well, how do we have both at the same time? It's actually pretty challenging. Thank you.